So now I'm going to turn back to Steve here and get us started at our tables.
Great. Thank you, Adam. So, very quickly before we go to the table introductions. So in order to have a great conversation with the community, we ask that people consider the following ground rules at the table. So first of all, everyone comes from a different perspective, different viewpoint, different opinion. So we ask throughout the program that you listen for understanding and that you listen for respect. So really trying to understand viewpoints that are different from your own. Second, especially at the tables, sharing the airtime. Our objective, one of our key objectives of all of these meetings is that we make sure we hear every single person's voice. And so we're going to ask you to share the airtime at the table so everyone has a chance to speak, share their point of view, and that we capture that. We're really looking for your feedback and for your guidance on this analysis going forward. As Adam said, we're still in the initial phase. There's a lot of data we still need to analyze, and so we're looking for your help to provide guidance throughout the morning on each of these different topics. Because we want to make sure you get out for the rest of your Saturday and finish by noon, each of the conversations is going to be quick, so we're going to ask you to kind of be flexible, to be ready to move with us from different parts of the program so that we can cover the full territory. With regard to filming, we make a strong request. You're welcome to film the presentations and the presenters, but to make sure we keep a safe space, especially at the tables, we ask no filming at the tables so people feel comfortable sharing their viewpoints. So I'm hoping everyone can abide by that. And then finally, although your facilitators have been asked to facilitate a constructive conversation, it always helps to have other people at the table supporting a constructive conversation as well. All right, so very quickly, the actual questions that we're wanting you to share, and this will be the first time that's very quick. So what is your name and where do you live in the county? What is your relationship to the public school system, whether you have kids in the system, had kids, will have, whatever that might be, you're a teacher, you're a student. And then the key thing is, in everything that basically that Adam just shared, is there anything that critical for you that's not clear that we can quickly address before we get into the core presentation? So if there is, we're going to ask you to identify that as part of the conversation at the table, and then we'll do a quick check-in after the introductions are over and see if there are any burning issues that need to be clarified. And just to repeat, we are going to be doing a kind of a short history of MCPS in a presentation after this, and then a presentation that's also in your books on school utilization, on diversity, and on proximity to schools. So most likely, any questions you may have about that will get answered during those presentations. So I'm going to turn it over to the tables. If you have anything you want to ask me, I'm happy to answer it after the process gets turned over to the table. I'll come around. All right, but you'll have about 7 minutes at the table. Make sure everyone gets a chance to speak, and please identify any questions that your table identifies that needs to be clarified. Thank you.
My name is I like to my relationship to MCPS, but I do have a therapy and issues to clarify. I don't have teachers who just go around and make my attitude. I also like things like your name, where you live, their high school, and they've already graduated. And how about Tom?
It's easier, that's why my extra name is
My name is Katie. I'm from I don't have any children myself, but my neighborhood is so
Thank you.
that it captures the physical footage, it's not turned in all the
My question is just that underutilization has been in place for a number of years, while service means that we continue to be crowded. So I'm just concerned about I have one kid who's very young.
All right, folks, let's wrap it up at the tables. If I can have everyone's attention back up front. All right, thank you. So, we're going to take just a few questions for clarification right now if they're really burning at the tables. Just a reminder that the last 15 minutes of this morning is going to be all about Q&A after you've had a chance to go through everything. All right? So, I'm going to take, there may be a question at every single table. We're not going to get to them all now. Some of them may get answered through the presentations, and then, like I said, we'll have a 15-minute segment at the very end, and then Kushan, Adam, myself, and others will be staying after noon, like we did the last two meetings, to answer any questions you have after the session is over. So we're available to answer questions in a number of different formats. So why don't we start here? I ask just people to make the questions really concise. Thank you.
First of all, thank you for your work. So you keep saying that this boundary study is not related to or not about to redraw boundaries. However, from your awarded contract here, which was dated August 29th of 2019, I believe, it shows the purpose of this R4 request for proposal is to provide possibilities exist for future boundary modifications to assign student assignment patterns. So you said there was revisions on this REF. So can you, but we are not aware of the revision. So, and this is posted online. So, and also I have another question. Okay, sure.
So Adam, do you want to take that real quick? Adam. Kushan.
Hi guys, Kushan here. So thank you for that question. I think we do want to clarify how the scope has changed, or evolved rather. It hasn't changed, it has evolved. So think of it this way. When we started looking at sort of the RFP that was put out, in our understanding, we were actually, sorry, if you'd allow us to answer the question, please. If you'd please allow us to answer the question. So when the initial RFP was put out, our understanding was that it required more of an analytical approach. But soon, sort of after our interview phase with MCPS, and after sort of our planning sort of retreat and meetings with them, we quickly learned that that's not the path we want to go down. So we actually started beefing up the community engagement aspect of it. We started sort of beefing up the other aspects of this proposal, where we started sort of we spent time on outreach, we spent time on sort of addressing community concerns, both in phase 1 and phase 2 meetings. And that's sort of just these community meetings. We also have sort of targeted group meetings. We are also developing sort of an interactive tool where we'll be answering more questions. So there is sort of that bucket of scope of work that soon sort of got more than what it was in the RFP that you have.
We can speak later, but it happens when an RFP is issued, and then there is discussion during that contracting period that scopes of work change. That is a frequent practice. We're happy to discuss it with you afterwards. Absolutely, absolutely, and we've tried to make things as transparent as possible.
Is there a way to add? Is there a way to add the boundary changes back into the RFP? I think that's something that many in the community actually support.
Yep.
I think things are quite settled as they are now, and essentially during the procurement process, we had an extensive period of time with MCPS, with the client, to define that scope, and it is not in the scope to do that.
Hey, the question at our table is, what are the key performance indicators that are going to be used?
So again, those are utilization, diversity, and proximity to schools. Those are the three indicators, and as an output of that, we'll be looking at assignment stability.
So my question will be regarding the school bus ride safety issues. So as many of you have been aware of, there were 2 traffic accidents related in Montrose Road. A 9-year-old girl was killed by a school bus, and second of all, a 17-year-old boy was heavily injured and he was under life-threatening conditions. So will this potential redistricting boundary thing lead to longer school bus ride for most kids, first of all? And second of all, how MCPS is going to address the safety issues? As we moved from New Jersey to Maryland, I was shocked to know that the school buses here, there are no seat belts for children. And this actually put our kids at potential more higher safety risk. So as a parent, I would like to have MCPS to address on that. Thank you.
We were also saddened to hear about those accidents. I think for MCPS, understanding school bus safety issues is a concern that can be raised through this process, but it isn't something that we're analyzing. In terms of the travel issues, proximity to school is one of the 3 critical lenses that we will be looking at.
So I'm going to take one more question, and then we're going to move into the presentations. And like I said, we will have 15 minutes of open Q&A at the very end of the meeting.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Shilpa. I have multiple children, and like most of you here, have multiple children. One of the concerns that I would like to see addressed is, are you or are you not going to be splitting siblings? It's not really very clear from this, and I think a lot of the fears that I'm hearing from other families are that siblings are going to be split, and that puts a lot of burden on families, especially women and working women. The involvement in schools will likely go down, sports involvement will likely go down if we have to attend 2 children in 2 different school systems. So I'd like to understand what weight is being given to family circumstances and siblings and keeping siblings together.
So just very quickly, so a lot of the issues that you all are raising are obviously really important issues, and these are the kinds of things we also want you to raise at the table. But Adam, I don't know if you have anything specific to say to that.
Again, it's not something that we would make a recommendation on, but it is something that we could analyze in some capacity just to understand the numbers out there. So I think it's a really useful point to be making in the context of this kind of meeting.
Yeah, because I also understand that by tomorrow, there's a deadline for comment on COSA, which would...
Sure, I'm sorry, it's related. There's a deadline tomorrow to comment on COSA and the idea of transferring students. This, I think, is the fail-safe that if you do want to, if it happens that your siblings are separated, you can then request a transfer, but the public comment is due tomorrow. Again, I think a large issue here is the lack of transparency on behalf of the BOE and MCPS. I'm not saying it's you guys, but I'm saying when you sneak in a link at the bottom of an email that's about calendar changes and then expect everyone to respond in the middle of holiday season, tomorrow for public comment is everybody go and check that last email that came, because that will affect whether or not we can request our children to be put together if they are separated through this process.
Thank you.
Again, I'm not saying anything against you guys, but I want everybody to know.
No, thank you for that comment. Obviously, not connected to the work that we're doing. Just want to make that clear.
Yes,
but thank you for the comment.
Public service announcement.
So thank you very much for those questions. And again, there will be time at the end. So it's important for